Oh, there we go.
Refresh.
Refresh it, and there it is. Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm excited to see it.
Ooh! All right.
Okay, hopefully it'll work this time.
There we go.
Good.
Oh God,
it should.
it is
I
80
managed that.
slides.
It is 83 slides.
I'm ready to...
83 slides. Some of them are shorter than others, as you can see from the first two.
Fair. I'm ready to be converted into Conya stan.
Oh God, well, what did I get myself into?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Just start the video. Just start your video like this, questioning my existence here.
I was already having ideas and like a plan. It was like, okay, we need to talk about why we're here before we get started. Okay, so Kevin, Cheesy.
Yes.
What makes you interested in this PowerPoint presentation in particular?
The fact that you have 85 slides.
Fair. Good choice. For me, it's that Conya, while I don't dislike the ship at all, I'm pretty okay with most ships as long as it's not terrible, you know what I mean. I want to see why you like it so much.
All right.
I'm very curious.
Yeah, it's very analytical, and I'm gonna come out in PowerPoint. So let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah.
So, all right. This is my press on why I am who I am. Whenever I made this Twitter account specifically, because I do like shipping and have been in fandoms before, but I really hate the way that shipping is, where you fight about it, like fighting about which one is better. But how people usually look at shows and like character dynamics, because I think that's interesting. And particularly, like, creators will often treat shipping differently than the shippers do.
True.
And so, without further ado, this is my defense on why Cole and Nya is not only like a good pairing to have in the show, but also why they work and how they work. And oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Okay, so for full disclosure, slide 2, who am I? I am a Conya stan. I have been watching Ninjago since I was 15 years old on Cartoon Network, and ever since the pilots. And another fun fact about me is that for like the first 10 seasons, I was completely unspoiled from anything. I didn't look at the sets. I didn't look at the commercials. I wasn't in the fandom hardly. I was just enjoying the show to enjoy the show. And these two characters have ruined my life.
Like any good Ninjago character should.
Indeed.
Yeah. They are my two favorite characters. And I love them, and I love their interactions, and I love them in general. They are currently my iPhone and my iPad wallpaper.
Aww.
They are our keys. And they've become my entire personality. And I write fanfics, and I do fan art, I do manips of them. And in the Ninjago movie video game character creator, I have only created 2 of them. One, a reference to Kirby Morrow, and movie Neo wearing movie Cole's AC/DC tank top. I love them, okay? But, okay, so the next slide, why do I call myself a heathen, right? Was like, it's always felt like in the fandom that anyone who liked Conya as a concept or thought it would be a better plan was usually dead on. Like usually they'll say just like no, like they're Darth Vader. and I'll move on. and fan art and fanfics with romantic Conya are almost impossible to find. Like crazy impossible. I think there's less than 20.
Dang.
Like
So
Wattpad alone.
You're starving then.
So what you're saying is they got orders. All the Conya stands got order 66 by Jaya fans.
Well, not really Jaya fans specifically, but people who hate how Cole and Nya were represented in canon. And it became like an ironic joke to me. It was like, I'm such a heathen or whatever. And it made me different than everybody else on Twitter. So it was like, well, if I stand out, I'll get more Ninjago friends because I hardly have any. And look at us. Here we are.
Hey.
I'm excited. And then a very big distinction here is that I'm a stan, that I'm not a pro shipper in any sense of the word, where it's like, oh, I'm advocating that way I don't get what I want in the show. That's what like most shippers do, right? And I've always been a Conya shipper. It happened in season 5, and I'll explain that later. But there's my list right there of all of my favorite Cole ships, and Glacier has always been my first love. I love
good taste.
And Cole and Nya may be my favorite relationship, and that but anything that happens in the future, I will accept it no matter what. It's just this character and this relationship in the show is really important to me. So I'll take them real way as possible. And I'll explain that too in this PowerPoint. And any opinions that people may have about these characters are not invalidated by anything that I do say. They are strictly my opinions. and how I got to this conclusion is all the parallels they have to each other, that they can have storylines that meet in the middle and go out to finish them on their own without romance taking the narrative priority. The missed opportunities that rise around them, and why it could be something really genuine, something we haven't seen in the show before, and what dragons are doing with them now, and why I'm excited for Ninjago in the future. Okay, and I love that form, and this is my Peridot, Percy, and Pierre moment.
Oh no.
Roman Empire.
Well, of course, we figured that already.
And it's not a bad idea. And so, without further ado, this is my defense of Cole and Nya from a heathen Conya stan.
Yeah.
Oh.
This presentation will be divided into 4 separate parts. The beginning from the pilots until season 4, the missed opportunity and the execution issues I have with Possession and Skybound. And then something I like to call the separation era, from Hands of Day of the Departed technically, and Decoded technically, into Ninjago Crystallized, and then Dragons Rising and beyond.
Do we really need to count Decoded though?
Decoded can count in our hearts.
It can
you know what? Good enough for me.
I have like little things in Decoded that are cool. So okay, so without further ado, let's talk about Rebooted. Yay!
Uh-oh.
A little history lesson. Rebooted wasn't supposed to happen. Technically. Ninjago was only supposed to be around for 2 seasons. So most of the character arcs, including everything with the Overlord and all the relationships and all the little bows, were really tied up, and Garmadon came back and all that stuff. And a season takes about a year and a half. But because of a serious letter writing campaign and Ninjago doing boffo bucks for Lego, even to this day, it's still going. It's still going
Somehow.
And
No,
look where we are now.
for now. And as we're recording, it's still going. It's still here.
Exactly. It's still ruining our lives.
And Rebooted took just over about a year with a runtime of shortened down to 8 episodes. And the Hagemans got extended with Lego and Wilfilm again. And everything was done, wasn't it? Everything. And what most people like to talk about Rebooted is Zane's sacrifice is really sad. I still feel sad when I watch it.
Yeah, I cry.
Yeah. Pixel!
Yes, Pixel!
Woo! Queen!
My favorite!
And the ninja go to space.
What?
And then, of course, the love triangle was terrible. But what if I were to tell you, Kevin and Cheesy, is that the love triangle actually worked?
Well, I would say you need to go to prison.
I would say that is a bold claim, but I want to hear you out.
Let me explain. So, with a magical gift of hindsight, and from point A to point B, we know, I think it was supposed to be terrible, so it could do what the writers wanted it to do, which is to break down those 3 characters specifically and build them back up again. Cole being portrayed as a good friend and a sacrificing person, and Nya and her arc of being denied what she wants, which ends up being Jay anyway, go figure. And further exploration and breakdown of Jay's character and insecurities. And all 3 of those things begin and end from 3 to 6. And we go into Hands of Time. And Hands of Time also was just a season that was supposed to just bridge the gap because the movie was coming out and they needed an extra season. That was a little thing that I found out in my research. But as we all know, like, the love triangle stinks and is horrible. But I think it was horrible for a lot of reasons, and I'll explain. So what we know for sure, Jay and Nya were always going to be endgame. I don't think anyone can disagree with me at this point. It has happened literally 3 times. The Legacy of the Green Ninja, March of the Oni, and Crystallized. No matter how much of a this was to all of us. And probably never, ever, ever going to change. And I'm okay with that. No matter how many times Kevin Burke retweets my, or how many hand nuzzles I'm going to get in the future. And even though I have my fair of execution problems, that I'm just saying that ending it with Conya wouldn't have been a bad idea the way it was written in the show, right? Oh, next slide. So let's rewind. Let's back it up to those first 2 seasons, okay? Cole and Nya, you're right. They don't have a lot of interaction, and technically they weren't really supposed to. They were 2 characters that were very much separate in how they were written. They had their own story arcs and their own people that they clung to, whether it be, you know, Jay and Nya to each other, or Nya to Kai. It was always that point that they were just 2 people in the same group who thought of all of each other as brothers in arms and sisters in arms. And there's a couple of things that I really like about Cole and Nya season 1 and season 2 that, here we go, I'll talk about season 2 later. It's sprinkled in through the rest of the PowerPoint. But so Cole in season 1 is joining in on Kai berating Jay immediately with trying to get with Nya in the pilot. And say to me,
I mean, any rational person would.
It was like anyone would, but it's specifically Kai and Cole, which is which is amazing. And Cole was the first person outside the Samurai X suit that Nya saved in episode 1 of Rise of the Snakes. And after Nya's reveal, I'm going to talk about this later too. I wish I had a sister like you. And what we know about Cole as a character now, it feels so genuine from him. And Nya responds to Cole's successes, like making for the punch of the party that's really good. And they just have like nothing bad to say about each other. And they're really great comrades as they are without having that many scenes in which they actually talk or do anything. And season 2, really there isn't really anything. Cole has like one scene with his dad, and Jay has his whole thing with Nya and Kai and all that stuff. But 3 things that I will be pointing out about season 2 later is the crumbling cookies parallel, the Earth thriller, and dancing.
Okay.
We'll talk about those later when we hit them. Specifically, March of the Oni, Prime Empire, and Seabound, of course. And okay, but why would Conya now in Rebooted kind of make sense in the show as it appears? The execution issue. This is one of the main execution issues that people don't like Conya about, which is that it hurts Jay, and it comes out of nowhere for a lot of people. And I really understand that. Right? Like, it comes back and you think that like everything's good with 2 characters, and then they just break the relationship apart. That's not really anything anyone really wants to see. And they didn't, and the writers didn't have that in mind when they wrote seasons 1 and 2. And instances of foreshadowing in the future are found in that first episode of Rebooted between Cole and Nya if you squint. And I'll tell you what they are and explain them. So the first one is their relationship to their students coincidentally ties into their character arcs later in seasons 3, 4, 5, and 6. Which is Cole is the worst, right? All the kids and everyone is telling him how much he's a party pooper and everything, and Nya's students don't take her seriously. That's something that they share right out the gate. And then Cole is actively stealing Jay's food out of the fridge. And Nya has off-screen talked to Jay about something about boundaries. So there's the setup for the love triangle. They have a connection that no one else in the team really has. They're already matching up with their plot points. And their aversion to Jay specifically, which is really interesting. And then we have like hints of Jay's desperation in season 2, and Nya being into a Jay that was nothing like him, the whole Bizarro Jay thing, which was really weird. And there's a line of Jay even questioning what the label of their relationship even is at the end of season
2. True.
Which is crazy to think about that now, but it is absolutely true, and he does say this. And they really only had one date and one really good kiss and moment with each other, the True Potential episode, and Nya wanting him to visit her in the mechanic shop, and then the rest of it was just one villain right after another. So it kind of makes sense in that way. But
there was that kiss in the Island of Darkness as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so if it's the relationship that is at its infancy, and Jay is a little too like excitable because he's so happy in his relationship, and that's why she wants boundaries, then that's a pretty good setup for what he goes through. about his insecurities and thinking that he's not good enough, which follows him into Skybound.
Indeed.
And then we have the perfect match console telling her that there's this other person who who you haven't had any bad things with, is a perfect match for you. And you thought that the thing that you wanted isn't technically everything you wanted, then that brings out the self-doubt that she goes through as a character. But let's talk about that train scene. She's already talked to Misako about this, and I'll talk about Misako and how crazy the execution problems are with this, with Misako, and I've posted this on my Twitter before. But Misako understands completely in Art of the Silent Fist what she's talking about, and maybe a little too much. But the conversation that goes into it is about the kids that they teach. It's starting that connection that was set up at the very beginning of the season. And Nya being flustered about the idea of having kids with Cole loses my mind. What? This is a kid's show. Please go away.
My favorite part is literally when she's just flustered and being stumbling over everything. Meanwhile, Cole right after just says, "I mean, our students, weirdo."
Why are you being weird about this? You've never done this with me before, or whatever. And you know that connects to that foreshadowing in episode 1. It's like, why is this happening? The train scene extended. A common misconception about the love triangle is that she's hiding her face in the train scene. She doesn't actively seek out Cole really ever until this scene in particular. And she's hiding her face and avoiding to talk to him, and she's really nervous in wanting to do this. And the more that she does talk with him, she reaches out to him, reaching for his hand, and he takes it. Let's put a pin in that for later. Parentheses, heathen behavior. Most of the ninja get all the attention, but he's a good guy, right? And she also says that he puts other people before himself, which is absolutely true later on down the line. And Don't Tell Jay is funny because it's a good joke about what's going to happen, but also that pointing out in the narrative at this point is that if you ever told Jay that Cole was a good person, he wouldn't believe you, because Jay at that point has been telling Cole also like how lame he is whenever all the kids are ignoring him at Garmadon's dojo. And then they take each other's hand and they start leaning in, fam.
Oh boy.
And whenever Jay and Kai come in and interrupt them, they have the absolute shock and guilt all over their faces. Okay, so Heathen Conya Stan, fun fact. Conya has a theme. They have an actual theme inside.
Huh?
Wait, what?
This is news to me.
Huh? Wait, what?
It's called A Good Guy, and it is on the Jay Vincent YouTube. And it appears at the beginning of their relationship and the significant end of the love triangle, which happens on Tiger Widow Island, where she says, "Not a good guy, but a good friend."
Man, I gotta listen to that when we're done here, because I didn't even know.
We're gonna need a link.
Yeah, it's really adorable. I'll drop the link.
This will be my next Twitter post.
I have it in my favorites on my YouTube because
Nice.
it's like this really like sneaky thing with like xylophones and strings that like builds, and it's really cute. And it happens again when they're having their talk on Tiger Widow Island about everything that they've went through since that point.
Oh, that's a good way to bookend that. It's good.
And it's really cool the way it's represented in the show, and what they do for each other in the show, and also why I think it wouldn't be a bad idea if Friend was something else. But okay, so next one. So I gotta put it out to my favorite people who comment, because the fun thing about being a stan is finding everyone's opinions and theories and headcanons and how hilarious they are. Specifically, the Overlord got Jay, Nya, and Cole into this predicament theory. And I have to point out why that's not true, but I had to say it because it's hilarious. So, in Blackout, fighting begins, but I cannot make this unbiased presentation without this theory. So, the Overlord has to know that kind of trick will work, or what? And the theory hinges on knowing Nya and Cole would have expressed any romantic interest at all, which they hadn't in season 2. And he would have probably used it to his advantage, like Chen did with Wu and Garmadon, the same way that he did with Cole and Jay. So, and Pixel at that point is fixed by a new heart and free from the Overlord's oversight, which they had to start the Blackout for. And the memes they do are absolutely hilarious. This one's from Crystallized. The meme that's right here. Now kiss her. I couldn't get Cole and Nya together, but I will not fail again. and he's talking about Loy Rumi specifically in this meme. Oh my god, it's funny.
That is so funny.
Okay, so we have the start of the fight. And why I bring up the Overlord theory at all is I kind of see their point. Because at the end of season 2 on Dark Island, we have the cookies crumbling thing, where Jay ends up attacking Cole because Nya is gone and he said something insensitive without thinking about it, which is something occasion. And the fact that it is in the same framing as the scene in which Jay finds out that Cole is more perfect of a match than Nya, gets Cole tackled when they technically haven't done anything but like talk once. And the Overlord being something that can be anywhere on the island at any time, he may have saw something there, but it's not too impossible to believe. But I think my arguments still stand. And despite any semblance and proof, we need to find out the elephant in the room and how the love triangle, the great love triangle of season 3, actually happens and the 3 sides of the fight. So, Conya, Jay obviously doesn't approve. That's that meme I saw. Cole's side of the fight. Okay, so there's 3 sides on this. It has been hotly debated before the creators on Twitter finally spoke. They're like, he was just confused. That was, and that's cool if he had any feelings at all. But I have a few reasons why Cole at this point would have at least had something there that he wanted to pursue. Like, I'm gonna make this argument apparently. How he is presented in season 3 is like, no matter what he does to be himself, he's considered the party pooper, which is something that ends up sticking out in season 8, and he is the one who is the most responsible out of all of them, so of course that would happen. And the Samurai X reveal of him saying, I wish I had a sister like you, especially with his past on being alone without his parents. And one of Cole's traits, as said by Kai in the Royal Blacksmiths, is how it's really hard for him to open up about his feelings. And the fact that one of the first times that he actually does it for himself is like, man, you're so cool. I wish I had a person like you, like Kai had, and probably my life wouldn't have been so alone.
Oh, that's good.
And
this is making me sad. This is the last thing of the presentation.
oh, good. Okay, the second one. What we know about Cole in the perspective of Rebooted in the 3 seasons was how afraid of how his father would perceive him in becoming what he wants to be, right? Like testing himself to climbing up the mountains alone and lying to his father about where he is at Marty Oppenheimer when he's actually not, and he's alone and with no purpose. Or in season 8's context, happening after his mother's death. And having someone like her in any context after the train scene would have been a comfort he'd never really had in the show before, besides his family. And, he wouldn't have the team that he does have without what happened to Nya, specifically. And Jay would end up pointing this out in Crystallized. That it's because of Nya and because of her relationship to everyone is why they were doing that in the first place. And then we have the other side of the thing. So with all that said, anyway, is that it is really genuinely a bad move for Cole to be a part of the fight in general if he wanted to be perceived as a good person, especially towards someone he considers a friend like Jay. And with his state of mind at the start of the season, and Jay and Nya openly having problems in front of him, and Nya is the person that decides to come to him, and how he respects Nya as a person, and he has a good relationship with her to begin with. It's not too much out of nowhere to see if they some effect on each other, whether they've discovered it or not. Okay, Jay's side of the fight. Though Jay's relationship is endgame in season 2, the hints I was talking about, first kiss, one date, the true potential thing, it's pretty realistic if it has problem spots early in the relationship. And it is a bad move of Nya being truthful about her emotions and her newfound connection to Cole, which springs out of nowhere. But he only attacks Cole when he finds out that they're perfect matches for each other. Not anything that he thought would be happening between them beforehand. And that's where I kind of lose it on the execution issue. But so and it mirrors in shot. It's the same shot as the cookie crumbling pair in season 2. And while Nya was under the influence of dark matter, whenever he was treating Nya so much differently than the rest of the team that it was a hindrance to fighting the Overlord. And he has every right to be sad that he may not be enough for Nya. Because he is actively saying, oh, okay, boundaries, okay, I'll back off. And it's really sad for him. And in season 4, he admits that he blames himself for losing Nya. But I'll get to that when we talk about Skybound. Nya's side of the fight. The perfect match machine is dumb. But I think it's supposed to be dumb. It's presenting her with something more stable than the relationship that she has. And I'll get into that in a second. And pursuing Cole instead. Which, if we fast forward into season 5, it's definitely something that calls to her true potential of avoiding hard things because it's easy and she's afraid of failure, which is a really great character dissection in why she doesn't in the first place. And a big misconception about the love triangle is that the idea of fixing her relationship with Jay is never out the door, never fully left her in that instance. And it is by design. And I'll get into it in a minute. And she was warning him about boundaries, and he agrees with that. And she also moves to comfort him about the results of the perfect match machine. And Nya side of the fight again, and a big part of her character is fighting for what she wants and an active role in her destiny. And the interesting thing about the perfect match machine is that she didn't have to pursue Cole, but she wanted to. It's just a machine. And she pursues it free of anyone telling her what to do, or just someone asking, or because even everything with Samurai X, every time that she's wanted to hide her identity, it was revealed twice, and she'll later have to give up everything that she wanted to be the water ninja. So if something happened to her that she thought she liked wasn't bargained for later, and I have a chart, a pretty little chart. Let's play a game, shall we?
Oh boy.
Again.
So this is a list of everything that Nya has canonically said about both boys in seasons 3 and 4. Puts everyone above himself. Everything is about him. Handsome, cute. Not Jay and Jay, which is the biggest burn writers could ever give a character.
Damn.
Jay.
Jay, not Jay.
That's her conversation with Misako. It was like everything that she expected that she wanted out of Jay's relationship is something that she's getting. So yeah, and Cole takes it too seriously, and Jay is the only one who makes her laugh. But a Heathen Conya stand fact is that before season 3, this never happened. Cole makes her laugh, Zane makes her laugh, and there isn't a single time in seasons 1 or 2 where Jay tells a joke and she laughs at it. Not a single one. There's a shot of Cole accidentally throwing a helmet in episode 1 of Rise of the Snakes and hits Jay over the head with it, and she turns to him and like smiles a little bit. This is why I put Heathen Conya stand fun facts.
And this was at the first episode, right?
Yeah, the first episode.
The sound effect they used for the boing.
And even in Sons of Garmadon, when the Hagemans do come back and write that episode, they say specifically that his sense of humor was something that she had to get used to. So even consistent. And it's really weird. But yeah, it's that, and love triangle scenes will usually end up in a pattern. Cole will Nya, whether it's nice or trying to help her. Jay steps in with it all, and Nya gets hurt. Not necessarily in that order. The first one is the ladder thing, where Cole tells Nya to be careful on the ladder going into the sewer so that they can talk to the Serpentine and the Curse of the Golden. And Jay gets angry, and then Cole ends up biting back, and she falls. And then later on in the finale of Rebooted, it technically happens again, and Nya in her gets defeated and knocked out inside, and Cole wants to get her, but Jay has the choice to do so and do it himself, which ends up having the team get her at all. And then there's the triple date scene, which is just a big long joke. Big guy alone on a mission. They don't take the love triangle seriously, folks. After it happens, it's just one long joke. And Cole lampshades the idea of samurai in space being ridiculous, but then is shut by Kevin and Dan in the theater, which is hilarious. I had to put that in there somewhere. Chooses a robot instead of both of them because they're crowding around her again. And the final one is Jay being sad that he didn't get to Nya on time to comfort her about Sane's death. And that's basically it. That's basically the whole love triangle season. An intermission of sorts. We got to talk about the canon comics because the love triangle also continues there. And we have the thing that Zane uses to lure Jay away from the group is just tell him that Cole and Nya are on a date. And he immediately, and the shot I don't have in here, but it's so funny. It's just a shadow with like two whites of the eyes with like a gleam on it, like it's an anime. And and Cole and Nya are gone at this point. And Jay has no ulterior motive but just to go to Mega Monster Amusement Park and just stop their date, and he gets captured. And the Phantom Ninja. There's a really cute scene of the Phantom Ninja between Cole and Nya. And again, there's the thing. The Nya is in a spot of trouble, and the boys want to save her. They argue, Nya is annoyed. And there's a scene where Nya saves Cole from a giant vat of hot metal. And in the next panel, Jay comments on how he wishes they would stop making eyes at each other. And then another thing, it is revealed who is underneath the Phantom Ninja identity. Jay starts flirting with her. I guess he does have a type. Then we have video game Shadow of Ronin. He admits to Kai that Cole had dated Nya after the memories were wiped after Ronin. And this is not but it's going to that I'll tell you about. And he only happens when Jay hid. And Jay is his attractive. He is his type. And Tournament of Elements quits. And with what we know now, the reason that Nya doesn't really make a decision is that the one who gets hurt the most out of this situation is Jay himself. Which is why I think the love triangle really exists. This is the reason why it exists. And Nya knows that they've stopped fighting, but we don't get to see or even how Nya knows how it ended. They don't know about the fight. She doesn't technically know that one of them just gave up. She technically doesn't know anything. And I'll bring that up later.
I mean, I remember she said something along the lines of she heard what happened.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe someone just she just got like a brief summary. Just looked at the plot synopsis.
Right. And he said he would take it all back if it meant that it would hurt him. He doesn't, and he never really does, either in the comics or in the show or in any of the materials that are either canon or not, that those feelings didn't exist. Which is like another thing that's really executed and really confusing to me. But the fact that he said that he would take it all back means that I think, in my opinion, in my interpretation, it probably just means I wouldn't have acted on any of my impulses if it really meant that I would lose you as a friend. Because we see later on in the show, and I'll explain that in a little bit, that he may have been confused, but I think he knew what he was doing. And in Tournament of Elements, as per the table a few slides back, the only real con she had to being in a relationship with Cole and not giving up on Jay entirely was because he was too serious sometimes, and that was it. So it technically doesn't, in the love triangle, really give her any room to choose Cole some more or to choose Jay some more, but that she's technically in a limbo that she can't escape from. And Cole's reason for quitting had really nothing to do with Nya, because he ends up reaffirming this idea to Dareth in Skybound. And he's depicted as looking for the same kind of attention Jay is when they're reunited in the snake pit at the end of the season. But because of how much the narrative wants Cole to be a sacrificing person, Nya said that he was during the train scene, he gives up the fight and all is well, and he eventually goes off to find Zane. And the Hagemans of Tommy have similar but very different answers. That Cole was confused about how he felt, and Cole didn't have any feelings at all.
I mean, like, I guess I would like to add, like, I know,
Go ahead.
like, I've heard Tommy say somewhere, like, because, like, I know he said, like, people shouldn't really take his word, like, at face value, because, like, if the show says one thing over him,
Right.
then then obviously.
And I was going to bring that up because I was like, because the way it's represented in the show, it doesn't seem like that, and it seems like it's still an open issue. And I'll talk about it later.
And, like, I guess it should be stated, like, the Hagemans are, the writers of the show.
They wrote all the
this
lines.
So, I guess the Hagemans, I think, would probably have more credibility than Tommy in this case.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, the love triangle for them worked because everyone feels sorry for Jay and wants a certain point in which it feels satisfying for the audience itself. And unfortunately, I think it's a bad idea because Nya's indecisiveness and Cole acting on this new interest made them take a step down for Jay's development. And that kind of makes me a little sad about it in general. And I think that's like the execution issue that I have with the love triangle, as opposed to everyone being like, this came out of nowhere.
I feel like for me, like, I actually don't mind the love triangle. I actually like, okay, let's take it apart from the season itself and just looking at it as its own entity. I actually think it's very funny. Like, I actually find it super entertaining, and it's just like, I think in comparison to, like, other love triangles that I've seen, which are just so melodramatic and just take too much of my time, and they're just way too freaking relevant in, like, stories and stuff, and they're just very contrived and just very just not interesting at all. Like, meanwhile, I feel like this love triangle, I mean, like, you have taken it very seriously in this presentation, but, like, for my interpretation, it isn't something that's taken too seriously, or at least
Right.
isn't relevant, or it isn't that relevant in the season. But at the same time, I feel like that's also its biggest issue, as well, as how you could cut that out and the season would still be mostly intact.
Indeed. Also, I also don't mind the love triangle. I actually think it's sort of necessary. The way I see it is that because, like you said, seasons 1 and 2 were going to be the only seasons, and the end game was always meant to be Jaya, or at least implied Jaya, quote unquote. They needed to do something else with them by the time they get to season 3. I mean, where else were they going to go? Just have them continue on with their relationship all happy hunky dory? That'd be boring.
And not realistic as well.
That too.
Yeah, and I'll definitely bring that point up later, because I think it also ends up becoming a brick wall on itself when we talk about Seabound.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm willing to believe the Hagemans and what they wrote. Not necessarily like because I have to take it seriously on an analytical stance, because it's such a breaking point for all three of those characters to come together at the end of season 6, and then we move on from it.
Yeah, like if there's one thing that I do like about the love triangle, I like the impact of it. Like I
Hmm.
think the love triangle itself, I can understand if people, disliked it or find the execution to not work for them. I can completely
Yeah.
understand that because, like, I mean, I don't take it seriously in season 3, but like, I do like how the following seasons approach the love triangle, especially with tournament, because they actually bring more meaning to it. They actually create some really interesting drama, especially between Cole and Jay, as you mentioned in tournament.
True.
And you'll eventually get to Skybound, and Skybound's one of my favorite seasons. So, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
It's one of my favorites, even though I don't think Jay was particularly executed well, and I think I'm gonna like surprise you with what I have in store.
Hmm.
Um, it's so funny because of all the Jay hate that's been forming around. Because I don't hate Jay, but the way that they particularly get to the point where he's solidified in a romance is kind of my skill issue. But we'll get to that. And it made, and what they accidentally did, and their relationship even up to drag has been consistent in how they feel about each other and what they go through as characters. And in my opinion, it's one of the most consistently well-written relationships among the team. And even though like Jay's, and it kind of makes me feel like that's why Jay's path right now is being a little divisive to right now. But it worked. It's flying colors. But before we get to the missed opportunity of what Skybound could bring as to a Cole and Nya romance specifically, and we'll drop that as we get to the separation era. But so there are 3 lines in Skybound that intrigue me to death. One is those 2 fans at the beginning of Infamous, where they say, "I like Jay, he's funny and cute." And then the other girl says, "I pick Cole, he's a ghost. You want him, but you can't have him."
They were so real for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the second one is between Zane and Jay. You still haven't told him about what you saw in the future's reflection, have you? And he says, "In our friendship?" No. So even by Infamous, Jay and Cole are still a little bit on the edge.
Or at least,
Or at least,
they're at least doing good, and Jay just doesn't want to risk
Yeah,
it.
they're aware of it. Like,
yeah. And
Like it's fresh enough, at least.
yeah. And I'll get to why that's probably important to Cole specifically when we talk about Cole and Nya's relationship in Possession specifically. And then the third one, I didn't know what got between them in the first place. If that one's fun. But really what's fun about that is that Cole technically wasn't the thing that was making Jay and Nya have problems in the first place. It was Nya being insecure inside of Jay's relationship, which makes the joke serious but also fun It's a good joke. It's a good meta joke. I love it. I don't think those placements of those lines are really put in by accident. So, I'm going to ask you a question for the audience. How many choices does Nya have left in this love triangle? Can you tell me any guesses? Well,
None.
Okay, I gotta really think here if I want to pass this test. All right, I should have went on Chat GDP and asked them first. All right, is it okay? I'm gonna hit with the big brain answer here.
All right, Kevin, shoot.
All right, I'm gonna be cooking here. All right, is it 2?
What are the 2 choices?
That's a good question.
Uh,
Well, what are the 2 choices that Nya has left after Tournament of Elements?
You know what? This is a trick question. It's Cole and Nya.
I'm going to answer none because Nya never gets a choice.
Ding, ding, ding. Well, that first line, Jay being fucking cute, Nya has said this verbatim. And that other thing she said about Cole is also true for Nya, because Cole stepped out of the love triangle himself. And in possession, Water Ninja gets the path he wanted for himself. And Cole a ghost. This will start a trend that Cole and Nya have as characters that I love. Because even Ninjago water is the one thing that ghosts can't touch.
Oof.
Ouch.
Ouch. Read the meme on the side of Bling. The Cloud Kingdom, leaving Cole alone after giving up the Water Ninja for his best friend. And then he has no future, turning him into a ghost. And so being with her, he could risk permadeath.
Ow. Poor Cole, jeez.
And ruling Cole out of the love triangle, it only leaves Jay. And the audience already knows that there's only one way it's going to go, with the reflection in the tomb of the first Spinjitzu master. And at the beginning of Skybound, it feels like she has only really one chance, and it makes her frustrated. And I totally get why. Because of all those reasons. And so, Conya and Terra arcs. This is something that they will share until Dragon's Rising. Because in Doc we trust. Cole and Nya share something that the rest of the team just don't. In that their arcs parallel each other so frequently because of one specific reason. Like, because Zane needs to embrace who he is and embrace that he can have humanity as an android. And Kai needs to forego his ego to be a mentor / protector and be okay with not being the best, but doing a good job. And Lloyd had his through line of needing to grow up, accept his role as the Green Ninja, taking on that responsibility. And Jay needs to be himself and not be something that he's not. And Cole and Nya have arcs, not about what they need to do, but what they have to do to be perceived a certain way that they want. So Cole wants to live up to the expectations put on him and not be a disappointment. A good friend, a good leader, a good ninja, specifically. And Nya, instead of living up to expectations, she wants to defy them. And,
that's a good parallel.
And they take it really when they fail to do that. And that's like one problem that people have with the Cole and Nya pairing is that they feel like there's such much of the same character, when really a different approach. And this connection carries them all the way into Dragons Rising. Especially with Konya's scene in Possession, which this scene with the love triangle being up in the air and not really explored in season 5, I casually ended up making the decision, and then one day later, the tomb scene happened. Immediately disappointed. But in canon, they're described as a perfect match, and it really shows. And in this, and Nya is the master of the water, and fate getting in the way of what she wants to be Samurai X, and something that she wanted to define by herself has to be defined by fate and what she was born into. And Cole does the same, but for his efforts in action, he becomes a ghost. Like, he wants to be a good leader and a good friend and a good ninja, and it dooms him to this fate of being a ghost. Something that he didn't want, and that connects them. And a great thing about this connection is that she's basically telling him her true potential before she discovers it, which is really interesting. And learning to go with the flow and not quit after having difficulties and failing, which is what she's basically telling Cole, which is really cool about that. And he's the first one to see that she's going through her true potential on the ship in the Possession finale, which is really cool thing to think about. And she comforts him with what she's currently going through, as opposed to a lot of people in Ninjago where they say, "Oh, you can do it, honey," and and then they do it, versus, "This is what I went through. Maybe you need to go through this too." And he says thank you to her, and he would later do this again in Day of the Departed, when she comments that he is, after the stuff with Sensei Yang, good as new. And it's that whole through line from Possession to Day of the Departed that I just love. I love it so much. And then we have their first hug, and she's sad that she can't reciprocate it. But then, in order to hug her back, he goes tangible. He finds like a new thing about himself that he didn't before, to hug her and show her affection. And I think that's just genuinely... And then that connection carries them out into the hangar in the Cloud Kingdom, when she asks him if he's in or out, and he makes that same hand tangible to grab the mech and tell them to open the doors, and then he goes up to learn about his powers. And in Skybound, the first scene that we see of Cole, he's doing what she said for him to do, even though he knows that he technically has no future. Because of this springboard, now he has hope that he can do all of those things. And I think that's genuinely charming. And it won't be the last time that this happens. They'll do this all the time to each other in Skybound, March of the Oni, the Ice Chapter, Dragons Rising, but we'll get to those in a minute. But okay, so before we talk about my execution issue, and it's a pretty serious one. Why are Cole and Nya's parallel arcs so often over the course of several seasons, while the others get just season focuses? And here's the Hagemans, the geniuses that they were when they decided to come back to write for Ninjago. They decided the best idea was to write seasons around their true potential episodes. And what they went through specifically. Like Zane trying to find connections and humanity outside of being a ninjroid, ends up making this huge sacrifice because of it. And then in And then loosely in Tournament of Elements and Possession, we have Kai embracing that he's not the best, but and they try to do this. Oh boy, they try with the scepter, about how he still hasn't let go of not being the green ninja. And it's a big connection to Kai as a character, about how he was able to protect Nya the same way he's going to protect Lloyd from Moro going into Possession. And then Skybound, where Jay, not believing himself enough based on his fears to get what he wants, which is Nya. And how does Jay go through his season spanning character arc? Well, his relationship has to fall apart in order for him to grasp his true potential episode again. And then we come to my execution issue. So, you may speak, and I'm going to expand on this in a minute. Can you please tell me what everyone in the room likes about Jay?
I mean, what do I like about Jeez? I say this
Well, to paraphrase what someone said, he's cute and he's funny.
bruh. You're not wrong.
Okay. Okay, so I like Jay. And as you can see, the section that I'm about to do may sound awful at first, but please hear me out. The section is called Jay and Romance, Paralleling Villainy.
Oof.
So, and oh my god, surprise. Okay, so a big, huge thing about shipping fandom is that sometimes they will demonize the third party to a point where that character is just non-existent. And we like to call that TV trope Ron the Death Eater, where one like funny character will be made out to be the villain, and really it's just like an execution issue and really based on just interpretation. But I don't see Jay in that way at all, because of how much his insecurities. But the execution that I have is the plot point that they decide to bring out in order for Jay to have that. As you can see in the epic handshake meme on slide 43, is Jay and Garbodon taking advice from the season's villain on how to get the girl, and gets the girl despite of it. But okay, here are the things that I love about Jay Walker. Okay.
Also, just letting you know, we're now like only halfway through the presentation.
I mean, I'm captivated. So.
Oh, cool, nice. That's wonderful.
I mean, I am too. I'm just saying this is very long. If you had any doubts about how long,
The dedication.
Like this is like worth like 5 school projects.
Oh yeah, I've been working on this for a month. This is like the amalgamation of like feelings I've had about these characters for going on like 8 years now.
So it's your crystallized.
Yeah, it's your Conya magnum opus.
Yeah, it's my dissertation. It's my thesis, if you will.
This is the culmination. This is the presentation to end all presentations.
Good. Amazing. So the thing I love about Jay Walker, okay, he is funny. I find him very funny. I laugh at him a lot. And I've never thought about him as annoying, and I've never wanted him to go away. And I love his voice actor too much. Michael's amazing.
He follows me.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Jay is very resourceful when he needs to be. He's even that way when he's anxious and under the most pressure. And I think it's really interesting that whenever he does face down a villain, it is a mirror of what he is going through, like with Nauticon, which I'll explain later, and Unagami. When he talks about being abandoned by his parents and accepting it because there must have been a reason. And even though I don't think that part is executed quite well in Skybound because of all the things that Jay and Nautica do specifically to Nya, but we'll get to that. Okay, so he's stronger than he appears, and lightning is the most dangerous element out of all four, I think, besides fire. And there isn't a lot of times in which he uses it, which I think is incredibly interesting. And like I said, he's a force to be reckoned with if he's alone and he's focused. And the way that he does parallel seasons villains on how those seasons villains approach romance needs to be studied. And I have done most of the studying to impress her to start a relationship. In Once Bitten and Twice Shy, the more he does this, he turns into a snake, a serpentine. He's literally turning into the enemy that everyone else is fighting around him. And the more he does this in Skybound, the more he turns into a sky pirate. Eye patch, swabbing the poop deck, playing pirate games, everything. And I'll get to it in a minute how that punishment works. But it's tied to his insecurities about himself, and the way it's portrayed in Skybound after learning what happened the first time is portrayed differently than it should have. And that's my execution issue. They do their best, but okay, so we gotta do another thing, an elephant in the room. Jay, women, and Nya. There's specific things that I don't like in the early seasons, but he learns from this quickly after the relationship is solidified in Hands of Time. It's fine, it's cool, it's his growth, but it's his infamous first lines are, "We're saving a girl. Is she hot? And does she like..."
Never gets old.
It never gets old. and Edna says in the episode Snake Bit that she is his type, so he has probably gone after women like Nya before.
Oh boy.
Mm.
And and he's still making the same mistakes technically. And then we've got the whole kissing the pillow thing that Wu makes a joke of, and it's hilarious. And when he tries to capture Samurai X, whom he presumes is male, and unlike the rest of the team, he puts on a wig and a dress and ties him up to some train tracks, and to have the hero fall into a sense of insecurity or whatever to save the damsel in distress or whatever. And it fails immediately because it's Nya under there. And now I can kind of see why she wanted to keep it a secret from him during the date. And a theme in his blossoming relationship is that he's truly enough for her and likes him when she's just him. And though he respects who she is and fundamentally changes his attitude, and it's a great premise for a relationship, it's time for me to come out with it. I'm an ace woman. I am not particularly attached to a lot of relationships portrayed on television as just starting with an attraction after seeing someone for the first time. That's not who I am. Never been who I am. And I do like the idea of relationship establishing over time, leading to romantic attraction, is very important to me. And it's rarely, if not found at all, in Ninjago, especially before Akita and before Geo. And every ninja up to that point has succumbed to something that I like to call love at first sight disease. Jay and Nya do this to each other. Mertessa does this for Jay for the lulz in Master of the Mountain. Zane and Pixel, Kai and Skylar, Lloyd to Harumi. And Cole and Nya's relationship is the only one that's expressed a romantic interest in each other, in which the relationship that they started with just grew into something else. And they're the only one to use or sell that kind of concept in Ninjago up to that point. And any established couple or connection are already married, like Ed and Edna, or Ray and Maya, or just people who are already married, or have an established connection or a relationship off screen, like Wu and Misako. And speaking of Wu and Misako, both love triangles are the same. I've posted this thread before, and Ninja Bricks.
I was about to say,
It's not the other one.
a jump scare right there.
Ninja Bricks sent this thread that I put up the first time to Tommy Andreasen himself. And he said that it was, I don't know, a coincidence, I guess.
Oh, Tommy.
And yeah, Tommy Andreasen saw it. He said it was a coincidence. Oh my god, coincidences. Speaking of Usako, both love triangles are the same, but have very sharply different endings. Which even boggles the mind of Tommy Andreasen. And Garmadon, while he is becoming the Lord Garmadon that we know of today, in desperation, thinking that he isn't good enough to be Wu, and he's always felt like that. And that's one of the most well-established relationship dynamics in the past for Ninjago is Wu and Garmadon's relationship. And takes the season's villain Chen his advice to replace Wu's signature with his own to win Misako's heart, and it worked. And when Chen and Garmadon's secrets were revealed, Wu and Misako get really petty and angry with him over what happened. And with Garmadon's loyalties to Chen and with what he did, he turns more and more into an anacondrae. A snake. A serpentine. Doesn't that sound familiar?
Very familiar.
I'm sorry, it just doesn't ring a bell.
Oh my gosh.
And Jay keeps the secrets from Cole and Nya and the rest of the team. And so much that he continues to coast on his wishes' ramifications as long as he can. Because he doesn't believe that he's good enough. And especially with how much he is compared to Cole, not only by Nya, it kind of makes sense. Because Cole kind of had all the things that Jay ends up finding out about himself, which is really interesting because Cole was born to a famous person in Ninjago, a royal blacksmith. And Jay was born to Cliff Gordon, a famous actor, but was given up. So he could have had all of those things, but he didn't. And I think that's really interesting as well. But, okay, so even more the love triangles are the same. Cole and Wu have no qualms about Jay and Garmadon ending with Nya and Misako. And they're happy with the outcome. Destiny, and they're happy for them and all that jazz. But on Chen's Island and Tiger Widow Island, after everything is out in the open, does the work start for Jay and Garmadon's development. And Nya and Misako have to grapple with the fact that all they had done to keep the relationship steady and all the things that she wanted to do ended up didn't happen because she was being lied to and manipulated / manipulated. The meme over here, Cole and Woo handshake, gives up on getting the girl because her and her significant other is being happy is better than losing someone else. And Cole and Nya and Woo and Misako are being petty and torturing Jay for lying about taking the advice from season's villain and making their lives way more complicated. And Garmadon's ending is realized that he didn't have to make the world in his own image because he didn't realize what he had. And his sympathetic sacrifice is to not have those things anymore because he got it in nefarious means. But Jay's ending is everything that he did in that season be reversed. And it kind of doesn't sit well with me. Opinions?
I think the skybound time reversal thing is a complicated beast because I can definitely get why it feels super, not exactly unearned, but sort of a letdown because you lose all of the consequences of all those actions, I guess, in the physical world. I can definitely see why that would be like, what was the point then? But I can also see that the two characters I guess the two characters in that point who needed the development the most still retain it. So I can see both, I guess.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat there. Like, I'm still I have complicated feelings over the like time reversal thing. But I do think it mostly works because like usually I hate when stories do that where they just like and it was a dream, and that ending was definitely dangerously close to that territory. But I think what saves it is the fact that Jay and Nya, who are the most central characters of the season, do retain that development. They do remember everything that happened. So it wasn't worthless. And you do see, at least within, you do see in like the next seasons how, they have a strong relationship. So it does show like something did at least last after that season. I guess like my answer to what you were saying though is that I mean, like I would say like throughout the season it was basically Jay, like at least in the latter episodes, because we know like Jay was definitely doing a lot of questionable actions.
And I'll get into those in a minute.
Yeah, I guess I'll explain this point maybe a little later, but basically like especially like the finale, it was like kind of just like him realizing like what his mistakes were, and basically trying to counter like using those lessons that he learned to basically counter like Nauticon, and also realizing like you shouldn't really force anyone to be in a relationship with you.
And that's another thing that I think is really well executed with Jay, and specifically his villains, Nauticon and Unagami. Really the only villains that he ends up defeating technically, or whenever he uses his words and uses his heart to defeat said villains, which I think is an interesting dynamic that none of the ninja really share. That's specifically a him trait. Even though I'm probably gonna because I'm gonna argue that while I do believe that the impact of the season still ending up with Jay and Nya is a great idea, a way to cap it off, I think the way that they get to that point kind of makes Jay's arc very questionable, in how it takes that true potential storyline that he did go through be pushed to its limit so far that it unravels that development from season 1. And quickly he builds it back up and realizes that he makes a mistake but there's like a couple of other issues that I'll get into in a minute. But okay, so almost every action that Jay takes to get his relationship back with Nya, up until they find out all about his secrets, is that almost every single one of them has a direct analog to exactly what Nauticon is doing. Which goes back to, like, the more that Jay lies and is not being himself, the more he turned into a snake, the more he's turning into a sky pirate. The more he's not being himself and being more like Nauticon. And here's the itemized list of all the things that he does. Okay, so Nauticon, his father, home, and relationship were all taken away from him due to events outside of his control, almost with no explanation on how it happened. Jay goes through the same thing. He's left at the doorstep of Ed and Edna Walker with no explanation why, and Nya backed out of their relationship outside of his control. There's that one. Nauticon uses Jinn magic to get relationship back, and Jay wants to and does do that exact same thing. Nauticon uses his father's sword as a tool to get what he wants, the same way that Jay uses his father's book as a tool to get what he wants. There's that analog with the sword and the book, which is insane. And then the same episode in which Nauticon lies to his crew, and specifically his first mate, his right hand, Flintlock, about his plans to get Delara back and what it would take to get her back, is the same episode in which Jay tells Cole about it and is basically lying to the rest of the team on how to get Nya back and what he did and probably is going to do to take it. And it's at that point that both of those characters become a character that takes their priorities over everyone else. And Jay is punished for this. And I'm not saying that he should be more punished than what he did, because my dinner with Nauticon was insane on how much Jay went through and how resilient he was and how resourceful he was. And I don't think that he deserved any more of that thing to happen to him specifically, because that's a lot of ewy, gross, awful. But in the crew, he's punished by the crew and Cole and Nya with the help of Lloyd on Tiger Widow Island. And it connects Cole and Nya again while he's gone. And it plays their theme. It's cute. And especially how Cole feels about women and how they're the most important people in our lives and people you look to protect them when life gets choppy. And their connection on the island is also their shared experiences again, because they share a relationship with Jay. And he reminds her of Lloyd's line of, if you want something bad enough, you do what you can to make it happen. And that he is his best friend and understands where he comes from. Because Cole did fight to get what he wanted. And it didn't turn out well. And it ended up him becoming a bad friend. But it leads to him to becoming a good friend. And Nya notices this. And that conversation ends up leading Nya to discover air jitsu. Something that she had struggled with and hadn't at that point. And because of their connection and their shared relationship, it happens. Just like it happens again, like it happens in Possession. When he's discovering new things about himself, she's also doing that with him. Which is amazeballs. Extra cute Cole and Nya stuff. Yay! The thing about Cole and Nya running into each other while he's intangible through the woods is hilarious.
And I like the reaction she makes as well.
It's like, what just happened? and sharing their best Jay impressions.
Not even Lloyd did that.
No. Oh, by the way, I call the Cole, Nya, and Lloyd trio adventures in babysitting. And it's so funny. It was like Nya and Cole are fighting off a monster, and Lloyd comes in. Hey, you guys, look at all the palm fronds I found, and they're the two adults being serious. It's funny. And while Cole had been on the receiving end of the comfort that Nya has given him in Rebooted and Possession, he does his own fair share here. It's not like she's always comforting him. They're always equal in that front. And I like that about their relationship. And he even remarks and even notices how upset she is now than she really is ever. The most upset that she's gotten, and he notices that. And that's super sweet. And so this is my headcanon. This is my thing. So when Nauticon decides to leverage the lives of the ninja to get Nya to cave into him, he chooses Cole first. And since it's a sure thing that he'll die because ghosts in water and they're above the ocean, he yells at her not to go through with it while his life is in danger, which is so him.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Nauticon knows about the love triangle, probably because they're tabloids, gives this an interesting edge to it.
You know, that's actually a good point.
Yeah, because Nauticon sees it, and he sees Nya, and he immediately sees Delara, and he hears the conversation that Nya says, "We're friends, and that's all we're ever going to be." And Nauticon uses it to his advantage. So it makes perfect sense if Nauticon knows that Nya and Cole might still be a possibility or might not be. We don't know, which is weird to think about. Okay, so why I think Skybound is flawed in its execution. The narrative doesn't really give Nya room.
I think you skipped a slide.
I skipped one? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I got it. So the most problems that people have with Cole and Nya's relationship, there we go, is what it does to specifically Jay. Right? We can agree on this.
You'll have to elaborate.
Starting to have feelings and pursuing some kind of growth in the romantic department from that end while still being in a relationship. And fair point. True that. That is a true statement. And Nya was still interested in being with Jay the whole time, even though she wasn't getting what she wanted out of that relationship. And Cole telling Nya all of Jay's secrets after Zane disappeared into the sword, it's hotly debated whether we think that it was Cole and Nya and Lloyd and Zane's fault for Zane being alone in the first place, or it's just a thing that Cole promised Jay that he would do if Jay had if anyone else had gotten hurt or ended up going missing. And he's still lying about Zane disappearing, and that's what sets him off. But it was like Cole telling the ninja everything is a really hotly debated topic, because should he have told everything, including the reflection? I don't know, but it's nice to have it like out of the open. And usually the ships named after women joke is really taken out of context. You know,
Yeah, we know.
and is really intentionally a bad joke. And then Cole calls her water lily, and ouch.
Oof.
And this is before they call Cole's mom Lily.
Damn.
This is really funny. But it's like he calls her water lily, and I'm like, oh my god, dude. And
then proceeds to give the most base take about women, like right after.
right. And but in Jay's desperation, he goes back on the statement that he does say to Dareth in Infamous about wanting him to not to treat Nya any differently from everybody else. But then he assumes to do it even as everyone starts dropping like flies, including her brother. And then the book thing. And specifically the thing, because he's lying to her about what the book actually is. And describing it as a book on how to embrace the feminine side in him, and using her interests of her own femininity against her.
Oof.
Damn.
And that hurts me too.
You know, maybe
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if that was literally a chapter in that book.
Right? And the fact that Nya does trust him, and we find out that, you know, she wanted to choose him like organically. And that's the reason why, we just need to be friends right now. And she has another guy who's pursuing her on her tail and try to strip away her bodily autonomy as a woman to get another woman back to him. And then just doing that, I don't know, it iffy. But like I said, the narrative still doesn't give Nya room to breathe when it comes to Jay. The plot has Cole quitting for his best friend's feelings. The writers have giving Cole dialogue about how Cole's a ghost and ghosts can't touch water, while actively ignoring the line about water and lightning. And it just seems kind of hypocritical, but I can understand why they wouldn't care, because that was never a thing that got them together in the first place. Especially with Lego being like, oh, we need to make Neo one of the ninja. Yeah, so there's that like executive meddling there. But and robbing all of the ninja, including Wu and Masako, all of their wishes by the time it's over. And Lloyd, with the gift of prophecy, ends up pulling Cole away when he wants to help his friends, entirely to leave them alone in the lighthouse. And then it makes Jay and Nya have a very weird analog to each other for Nauticon and Dolara's relationship that we see little of, and where they're laughing at the idea that they hold all the knowledge and power over the crew. And Jay and Nya now know that all the things that they went through in Skybound are theirs and only theirs. And also a little non-canon like tidbit or whatever about Way of the Departed, when it was after Day of the Departed and Cole was messing with what his scar means. Tommy Andreasen writes a line about how upset and alone Cole feels about Jay and Nya being happy and whispering secrets about each other in Yang's temple while he's going through that and not being able to tell anyone. Which is like an interesting, like, non-canon tidbit, but makes me really sad about it. And And it also makes Nya parallel Delara in just her looks by always wanting Nauticon and everything he ever wanted, a future with her the way he described, and sympathetic to everything Nauticon has committed, regardless of who he hurt or did in the process. And then everything is undone with that finale. Everything that I just described. And Jay does get to apologize to Cole, but he doesn't technically get to apologize to Nya about all the things that he did to her specifically. And I'll get to that when we get to the reflection problem. I have a problem with the reflection. But Nya ends up getting captured and married and mind control and being the damsel that Jay has always wanted to save since the pilot. And it's different than what we see in Once Bitten and Twice Shy, because one, Nya was fighting the Serpentine to get the Fang Blade and failed, rather than Nya ending up being a passive player in a way that Nauticon gets to her so Jay can save her. And the second problem is that in the Once Bitten and Twice Shy parallel, Jay has to save the both of them in the roller coaster. The things that they go through are things that they have to go through together, and he saves the both of them. And Cole gets the famous, I don't know what got between them in the first place line. And all of the things that he does apologize to Cole for is gone. And canonically, Jay and Nya were having problems before the perfect match incident was even an issue. So it kind of just masks all of those problems over a sheen of Jay and Nya being the only ones to know. Even though it's more impactful if they do know, but it's complicated. And nothing is really done to fix the problems in Rebooted, making Nya being Jay's endgame the only option. Or to use a Skybound reference here in which she makes that decision, that episode is literally called The Last Resort. Ouch. The reflection problem, I would argue that really doesn't give the relationship any stakes then or moving forward. Because it then becomes the idea of, if we get through this, sure, we will have a relationship, but it doesn't have any stakes for the relationship moving forward, no matter how many times they save each other. And this was a problem that, even though I thought Seabound was really sad and really depressing and really tragic because of what happened to Nya, even with crystallized not being a thing, we know that they're going to be together anyway because that future already exists. So that's kind of like a mistake that they dodge yet don't dodge. I'm not opinions.
Oh, do you want opinions or?
Sure.
I mean, I'll be honest here. Like everyone said about the reflection since basically within recent seasons, but like, the reflections haven't been relevant for years now.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to take that point further.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing with the reflections is, I think we're kind of looking too deep into it. Because the season literally, because like in season 5 when we first see the reflections, we have that little mystery bit with Cole with like, oh, what's gonna happen to him? He sees no reflection of himself. This must be bad news. He's gonna die. But literally the first episode in season 6 literally has them literally has them just debunking those Cole is gonna die theories, literally explaining that, like, Cole's not
Right.
actually a goner. He disappears.
Yeah.
And
But
like I don't think we're meant to take those like
sure.
reflections too
Too
literally,
seriously?
at least in the at least in the sense that they're gonna grow old and look like this, and they're gonna
Right.
grow old and look like this when they're like 80 or something. No, I
Yeah.
think it's more like this is more of a general path of their future, but
Mm.
it's not exactly something that you know
Right.
it's not exactly something that, oh, they're gonna be 80.
But
If-
the fact that they do take that reflection seriously enough that it becomes something that Nya ends up telling Jay, that, oh, if you saw the future, then we make it out of this, while he's tinkering with Echo Zane. And they take the reflection seriously for Jay and Nya, but yet they don't do it for Cole.
True, because it is like a driving force for Jay's, like, where he is in Skybound and what he does is because of that reflection, or at least a big part of
Yeah.
it on his own one. So
And not Conya, that Jay, that's why Jay didn't do anything to try and get her back after Nya fell for Cole. It was like, that's a canonical thing that Nauticon knows about Jay that he uses against him. So the reflection ends up becoming the reflection of the idea of being in a relationship with Nya is the motivator, and takes that motivation seriously in that season.
I think we also have to consider though that like that was, I think, the way Jay acted over the reflection, and basically treated it as gospel and basically like
Right.
his actions directly related to the reflections is something that the season does punish him for.
Mm-hmm.
true.
Yeah.
So
And
like I mean, yeah, he takes it very seriously, but like as you already mentioned, he definitely took a lot of questionable actions and mistakes here and there that really, that his friends would call him out on, and would basically become a punching bag for my dinner with Nauticon. So
It's it to be said though that Jay would have had to go through those steps anyway to learn, because like even if he didn't chase after Nia the way that he did, I feel like he would have had to go through something similar because he still was in the mindset he was before actually being able to have any kind of relationship with anyone, to be honest.
yeah. And for the audience, as we've stated before, you're right. Even with the reflection, there's nowhere else their relationship can go from here, other than just being together. And
well, I will say I don't think the reflections means that the Skybound ending's eventually going to be reversed or something. Like let's
right.
pretend crystallized didn't exist. Like I wouldn't really take that into account on how they would write
Mm,
moving forward with Seabound's ending, because
sure.
as I said, that hasn't been relevant. And honestly, like those reflections were basically resolved by like after season 7.
Mm,
So
yeah.
like that's my personal take on that.
Sure. Okay. And then I wanted to give like an opinion on this thing. I about this too is that as soon as they find out about the reflection, Nia is more comfortable with being with Jay, right? And it gives Skybound kind of a narrative cheat where Jay doesn't really have to apologize for her to her, because it's because of what she already feels, and he doesn't have to take that responsibility. And I kind of he takes that responsibility to Cole, but not to the person that he did all of those things to. It's kind of weird. And it's really, I think, not more contrived than the perfect match console, because the perfect match console like existed as a way for Nya to realize that she wanted something more out of it and wasn't getting it, and that's how we got here. And sure, it was a machine, but she didn't have to act on it. She wanted to, and it succeeded. And the reflection exists. I already went through that one. We already talked about it. The plot could have had them remaining friends with each other, or they could have had Jay and Nya move on to new people and finding out more of himself outside of having or that relationship, and not even take that reflection seriously, like you said. And this would fix most, if not all, the fandom's problems with Skybound in general, if it wasn't just the romance ending up being the ending to their arc rather than it being organically out of what it's weird. It's weird. But if Cole and Nya would be a status quo changer in which she discovers that it's like it didn't work out and they didn't have to explain who Nauticon is or was at all. And having Cole and Nya in that relationship would have all the stakes because he's a ghost and his future is all but like up and tossed in the air. And they have that connection to each other about going through everything together, and they would have that relationship that would be on borrowed time, as opposed to Jay would be okay with himself even without that romance being a thing. And 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 while that is impactful that Skybound ends with Jay and Nya only knowing what happens, Cole and Nya having that unique relationship already from the main core characters, and that then their relationship would end up having the obstacles. And the real travesty about the plot line itself isn't really Cole and Nya's newfound affection for one another, no matter the context. But everyone's problem with it is how it starts and ends in canon. And Cole and Nya may be on similar but different paths, but even when they are, it's the connective tissue that leads them into their arcs rather than the romance being the end game and the things that they want out of the arc. And even if that relationship that they would have had if they went to a different direction, in Day of the Departed, the arc wouldn't just be the romance going from point A to point B like a lot of people are afraid of, but adding on to the list of Cole's things that he gained that he didn't want to lose. And Jay, technically, with all the wishes that he makes, doesn't really lose anything. He just gets what he wants, and that's it. Am I making sense?
Yeah, you definitely are. Like, even if he does learn the lesson, there's no real tangible consequences by the end.
Yeah, and the Heathen Conya stand fun fact that missed opportunity of Jay and Nya not ending up together, but Cole and Nya finding that connection outside of their relationship while going through their arcs would give Jay room to find out who he is outside of the relationship, which is a problem moving forward. However many seasons we've got. And the last parallel that I'm going to give you before we head into the separation era is that we have the Heathen Conya stand fun fact. So the last parallel we have between Jay and Nauticon is that what they're essentially fighting for in the dialogue is essentially the same thing. Taking Nya's hand, whether it is to have their future together or having Nya's hand in marriage. While 3 seasons prior, Nya, without any forcing of their own and doing what she wanted as the situation perceived itself with her own accord, was taking Cole's hand 3 seasons before.
Oh, aw. Honestly, I feel like, especially with the end, I feel like you're still like convincing me. Oh no.
And Cole and Nya, since rebooted and into Dragon's Rising, that I'm going to explain in the separation era, still have that relationship, and having a romance wouldn't define their arc, ending up with a romance, but their arcs would discover what they are to each other. And Jade and Nya's in Skybound just don't do that. And that's another reason why I like them and why I think it's not such a bad idea. Because if Nya admits that she can't fight for what she wants and then tries to fight to get out, because whenever she's in the church, she's not fighting her way out of the church. She's stalling for enough time for Jay to save her. And oh my gosh, that hurts even more. And yeah, it was. Any questions before we move on? Musings?
I feel like it's just Nya's such a tragic character. Like if you think about it for just more than 5 seconds, and the fact that Cole was the choice for a hot minute, and then that choice no longer is really there for her.
Yeah, and it removes him from the plot more and more and more and more. Not because it's not something that he's really wanting to do, but that he's forced to do because he doesn't want to lose his friendship.
Oh, that's sad. Oh.
Or that what he did. Oh, a little thing that's really funny in Possession, whenever they go into Yang's haunted temple and they're pranking him with the falcon, Cole is like really on edge and nervous, and everyone's like pulling pranks on him in the temple, and he's really angry and furious with them, but he hears something behind him, behind a door, and he says, "Is Nya behind there?" Like really snide. and the fact, yeah, and the reflection and having to be forced into the lighthouse by the act of prophecy, and Cole being a ghost, and the whole Cloud Kingdom fiasco of him not doing it's just a really cool thing about his character, that he's constantly losing things because he wants to be a good friend, a good leader of the team. And if it's something that he really wanted and was not confused about and really wanted, then that could be something really cool, because it was like, Nya can't fight for what she wants. What she wants is to choose someone organically, and then Jay decides that the best course of action is to try to save the rest of the ninja, which he eventually does. And then the ninja would have all the people that she cares about fighting for her, and then so on and so forth. And then we go into Day of the Departed, and he's a ghost, and he's fading away, and Nya closes that circle in Day of the Departed at the end, where he is not a ghost anymore, and she's the one to like shake him around and say, "Oh, you look so good, you're good as new, you're better." a problem that I'll explain later is that the problem that Cole finding a love interest in general that people have is because they think it would take away from his character development because he didn't have much of it that moving forward. But if he did have that relationship, it would just add on to the list of things he's gained over the course of everything that he's went through. Like his new relationship with his father, Wu, his best friends, and his relationship, and his best friend. It would just add on to the list. It wouldn't be the thing that he would be succinctly wanting, which has always been Jay's problem since episode 1, since the pilot.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah. So here we go. We enter the separation era, and I say this because after Skybound, up until Dragon's Rising, there is not a single scene in which Cole and Nya talk to each other alone in a room.
Really? Not a single one.
Not a single one.
I can
Wow.
understand like how it would start after Skybound, considering the Hagemans did not write Day of the Departed or Hands of Time.
Right.
Fair. And then after that, the seasons aren't really directly.
And
Yeah.
then it shifts to the Oni trilogy, and then Wild Brain era.
And I think, and here's something else about how the love triangle actually worked in their favor, because they wanted to make that endpoint because they started it and they wanted to finish it, and then it leads us out into the rest of the show, and that could be a thing too. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, other than Decoded, whether you think it's canon or not, Skybound is the last time Cole and Nya will have a single scene alone together in a room until Dragon's Rising. Which is sad. Because, I've been trying to tell you throughout this presentation that they have a great relationship, and having a relationship wouldn't take away anything about their arcs. It just made their arcs stronger by their connection and how they move forward to it, and they connect in the middle. But every other ninja combination has had at least one, like Nya and Zane and Kai and Jay and Kai and Cole and Kai and Jay and Cole, and just every single combination you can think of. Yes. Cole and Nya, no, absolutely not. But it doesn't stop them from doing what they always have been doing, which is what I was describing to you for a minute. And even their storylines are separate from the rest of the team. Okay, so quick recap of what little we have in Decoded through Hunted until I geek out and fangirl over March of the Oni. So Nya has an interaction with Cole to help him solve puzzles to fix Zane. That's the whole thing about Decoded. And one little moment I'll talk about later in a Heathen Conya stand fun fact that I posted on Twitter before. And then when Kai and Jay are fighting to see who will go outside the Samurai X cave to fight the monster, Nya and Cole have already discussed it and sent Cole out the door before they can even talk about it. And Hands of Time, you've seen that Bob's Burgers quote before. They sure are standing next to each other. And in Sons of Garmadon, there's this little tiny cute scene of Cole and Nya breaking out of the Venge Stone with Baby Wu getting the keys. And he's distracting the guard by singing. And he gives a little wink to her. And then Hunted, they have paralleling character arcs. Cole's taking care of a grown-up Wu, and Nya is protecting Lloyd on the other side. That's really nice. Okay, here we go, fam. Heathen Conya stand fun fact. There's a sticky note in the Samurai X cave that has date J, and J is crossed out, and Cole is underneath it with a question mark. Deep in the hands of time. That's really funny. Okay, here we go, fam. March of the Oni. Let's do this. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Us Conya stands were eating. We were absolutely being fed. I don't know how this happened or what they were cooking in the writer's room, but they did it. They made me kowtow. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So, Jay and Nya are yin and yang. Woohoo! Awesome, amazing, great. I think that scene's really cute. I tolerate Jay. I think they're cute after Skybound ends. They're like the anti-Homer Marge. But it's what I said in my Ninjago shipping video. You want to keep things canon and keep things wholesome, but in actuality, your favorite relationship dynamic is sitcom wife, sitcom husband. Nya, by accident, moves the thruster of the bounty the wrong way, and Cole falls into the darkness. Oh no. And oh my gosh, and she's absolutely devastated about this. And whenever she has to save Garmadon and Pixel and Lloyd from falling out of the sky, she's just saying, no, I'm not losing anyone else today. And that's oh my god. And then Kai comforts Nya. And Nya has closed herself off from the rest of the team. It's so sad. Like, no one can really comfort her after that fact except for her brother telling her what Cole would want her to do and how much Cole loves her. And it and obviously it ties to Cole's theme of death and coming into terms with grief, right? And it's how much Cole cares about her and would want them to do and keep fighting, and that she's the one who comes up with all the plans, which is true. And because of this, she comes up with the idea on how to melt down the golden armor into weapons for Kai. And what happens is that she carries the Scythe of Quakes into battle for the fate of all of Ninjago in the Will Film era series finale. While he is alive and coming back with this, but it's here's the catch. Okay, so in the short that precedes March of the Oni, with the legacy set of the season 2 Earth Driller that Nya makes, they canonically in the short tell us that Nya gave Cole the Earth Driller as a present, and Cole is alive and racing back to the monastery with the Earth Driller that she gave to him as a present. They're literally carrying each other's stuff to get back to one another. What? Oh my god. And Cole and Nya's posters, their character posters, are about each other. And they're doing it again. And it's so hard because, like, if they had that relationship, oh god. But I've always thought that Jay should have been the one to get off the boat, because it's kind of like the comic relief character being gone kind of devastates the plot more, and probably would have fixed a lot of the pacing issues that I have with March of the Oni. Because as soon as Cole gets back and wakes back from he says to them that well, it's been great, guys. And then Jay then chooses to propose yin and yang to Nya. And that plot line completely like goes out the window. And Jay hardly has any lines, and I'm like, okay. But oh my god, what I got. Holy crap. What?
I mean, I feel like the reason why they chose Cole to let him fall is mostly because, like, let's be honest, I feel like one of my issues with the Will film era is like how Cole never really had that much spotlight.
Yeah.
Ninja, and he had his moments here and there, like Day of the Departed attempted.
Part of season 5.
And you mentioned like those like Cole and Nya moments, which are very impactful and powerful. And like, he was starting to get more spotlight in season 8 and 9.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like every other ninja by this point had their own kind of season.
Sure.
And Cole never really got it, which is why like Cole is like,
yeah, and
Cole's the character you see in like the intro card, like the first character you see there. And
yeah,
I feel like this, like his his fall was basically, I think, a way to have him be more involved in the story while also simultaneously communicating with the audience, like, Cole was a very valued member of the team and how much it devastates all of them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Especially if we assume that they were like thinking this is the last time we get to do anything with these characters. Let's make sure that the one character that didn't really get as much gets that.
Yeah. And then I thought it would be also poetic if Cole ended up becoming that character that took on the responsibility to bring the team together so that they could go, while also making Jay's storyline more impactful, just saying, "Oh yeah, I almost died. I didn't have forever, and everything would be fine, and it would still end up having that impact, but just with a different character." And having Cole end up like consoling everybody and bringing the team together would end up tying a lot of his arcs in 8 and 9. But in any case, the fact that they had that through line between Cole and Nya and the objects they carried to get back to the monastery, it fuels my heart to no end. And we got Garmadon and Vinny out of it. Heck yeah. And then we come to the Wild Brain seasons. The epitome of the term, they sure are standing next to each other. They're new writers, it's a new studio. And they usually don't have a lot of storylines that they share, maybe like once or twice. And not to the extent of Possession or Skybound or even March of the... But in Seabound and Crystallized, there's a missed opportunity that I'm probably going to bring up. But that could have Cole specifically go through, Nya went through for him during March of the Oni. And also the dreaded cookies crumbling parallel, which is also insane. They do have small bits in which they show that what they would do for each other and how much they care. Secrets of the Forbidden Spijitzu, the Fire chapter. Hardly anything happens between them. I just put those two pictures of Nya looking really impressed at Cole carrying something heavy.
Oh, that face. I kind of want. I want those images now.
I'll send you them.
Her face.
Her face.
She looks so happy.
So beautiful, fam. It's so hilarious. Okay, so the ice chapter. Okay. So, I saw this comment about Cole and Nya not too long ago on how they don't ship Cole and Nya because they think they're too perfect. And it's like they're not opposed to the idea, but they think that if they ever got together, the relationship would be too perfect and they wouldn't clash, or they wouldn't have really anything to go or move from like Jay and Nya would, and or any other pairing that Cole or Nya might have. But I present to you the ice chapter, in which their arcs clash and resolve in a way that's really, really significant to how Cole and Nya are as characters at this point, moving into the Wild Brain seasons. So, as we all know, in the ice chapter, Cole accidentally loses the Traveler's Key, and they're stuck in the village in the ice chapter in the Neverrealm. And he's going a little nuts about his failure to do so, and again, failure to live up to his expectations that he puts on himself, and being hard on himself when he fails. And before this, he has a conversation with Nya about controlling ice, right? And since ice is just water but frozen, in Cole's way, too serious and saying things he doesn't mean. And since it's so much of Nia's arc and what she wants to do is defy the expectations that everyone puts on her, and not being able to control ice really hurts her by saying that, oh man, you could have been really useful if you could move this ice. And he's so used to Nia's expectation, and Nya gets really mad at him and throws a snowball at him, and they're separated. And the next thing that Nya does, like Cole does in Skybound, whenever he's discovering new ghost powers about himself, she's also distraught about not living up to that expectation that Cole puts on her, that she's already trying to control ice with Sorla. And which is, yeah, she wants to be more than just the master of water, and be a use for any way she sees fit. And that becomes that kind of diametrically opposed thing that makes them look like magnets that are like two positive magnets like pushing at each other. And and all the ninja in his dream, including Lloyd, chide him about losing the Traveler's Tea, which subconsciously is a thing that he's failed in, so he's taking it out on himself. The same way that Nia's taking it out on herself by trying to learn ice when she feels like she can't. And then, but Nya is also in the dream because I don't know. It's like subconsciously he probably believes that Nya wouldn't do that to her, which I'll bring that up whenever I talk about Master of the Mountain for like a little second. And whenever he does see Nya after having that conversation with Kai and Jay about being mean in his dream, he interrupts Nya controlling the ice and not learning what that power is, and it adds, and again, like I said beforehand about Day of the Departed, it just adds, it's a different relationship, but adds to the list of the things that he's insecure about and not living up to the expectations of being a good friend and a good person and a good team leader, which is a very like interesting dynamic to put those characters into. And it works exponentially. Does it work? Because because of all of those mistakes, ends up going up the mountain, finding Craig and finding the berries that ends up getting out, and fixing his mistake. But whenever Nya decides that she's laser focused on getting Cole back. Oh, hold on, I skipped a thing. So Nya goes up the mountain with Jay, and she's so laser focused that even Jay is commenting, "Hey Nya, why didn't we bring weapons?" And in the mountain, he says, I wish Kai was here." It's like, no, we needed someone back at the thing, even though Kai is the one who has the least powers out of all of them. So there's that laser focus again of like, I love it. And so and Nya, in order to protect them from the elemental ice dragon, once and for all, she finally controls the ice. And then he says, "I knew you could do it." Instead of, "Wow, that's great, you did it." Uh, but it connects back to them specifically, and it's just wonderful. I like that dynamic, and it's something that we haven't seen before. That really writes into how the Wild Brain seasons portray Cole and Nya anyway. Is that they're good friends, but sometimes Cole can get a little bit too serious or too silly or too out of focus. And okay, so we're gonna go to Prime Empire, and we're gonna talk about the dancing thing. The dancing thing is this. I think the dancing thing I think Jay and Nya making their thing that portrays their chemistry in a Jay season, dancing, is really cute because of what it does for Jay and Nya as a couple, but also really funny because of what we know about the love triangle and all of the shenanigans that happened like seasons prior. It's like, okay, so here we go. What is the thing that Jay and Nya can do to show their chemistry as characters in the video game season? Dancing, says executive producer. And then the Heathen Conya standing in the corner, is all like, "Hey, isn't Cole's thing dancing?" It's like, yeah. And it's really cute in the show how he's really excited about how they're dancing because they were doing it in secret, and it's really surprising, and he's all for it, especially in the context of the series. And they call out the show itself that Jay was one of the worst dancers, but Jay. The funny thing about it is that Cole and Nya already have a tie to Cole's dancing way back in season 2 when she was possessed by the dark matter on the Dark Island. He says, "Not a chance, sweetheart, our dance isn't over." and and they call out in the show that Jay's one of the worst dancers, and they say it was like, oh, the short gives a lot of context to Jay and Nya dancing and what it does for them. But what's really funny about it though is that Jay insists that he doesn't want to do it, and the romance again becomes a motivating factor in order for them to do the dancing. And also, Jay isn't a better dancer because of Nya. He's already good at dancing because video games, because Prime Empire. And they even drop the line where Nya says, "I've always wanted to take dance lessons." And me, the Conya stan in the corner, who's always thought that Cole and Nya would have a great, charming, and sweet relationship, was like, wouldn't that be like a check mark in Cole's column during the whole love triangle situation? Was like, okay, here's the perfect score of the dance competition. Yay, cool episode. And I'm out. It's a weird thing that happens to me as a multi-shipper, apparently. But okay, so a Heathen Conya stan sidebar. We gotta talk about the dress thing from the shorts. And
I'm sure it's just a random dress.
yes,
Honestly, I accidentally skipped ahead one slide and was like, oh my god, they are the same dress.
yes,
You now realize that?
yeah.
I didn't think about it, okay?
What do you mean?
and-
Everyone was screaming that in
I think I
Ninjago Twitter,
thought
and
about it originally, but
you
then
had to have
forgot.
heard that from us at least some point.
I did probably, but then just swept it aside.
Oh, and the great art and headcanons that came out of that day. Oh my god, I was having a field day. And was like, not only do I believe that it is Cole's mom's dancing dresses, the fact that in season 6 Nya says that she hates dresses, but if they're dresses given to her by Cole, she's wearing them to dance in, she's wearing them to sleep in the dream short. She just uses them for everything. And that's really sweet. And
Aww.
I like it. Thank you, Tommy. Okay, then before we do go into Seabound, we need or the island and the things that happened during the island, Seabound, and Crystallized, and then we go to Dragon's Rising. Okay, so lots of little things. They both try to get Jay out of Prime Empire, and he's all focused on the video games and the avatars and what he needs to wear and cool stuff. And it'll happen again in Crystallized when he's thinking about cake, and Nya focuses him up. It's like, wait a minute, Cole, focus, Cole. Stop thinking about cake. And then he goes back. Okay, what's the plan? And something funny, whenever they're climbing the Cliffs of Despair in Prime Empire, there's a March of the Oni reference. Yay! Cole falls off the cliff and while his rope breaks, and Nya is the one to call out to him. And Cole says, "Not again." And then he climbs her rope up, and all the red people that are chasing after them is having him go up the mountain. He's like, and and Nia's like, "Move, Cole, go!" It's like, I'm trying, I'm climbing as fast as I can, and Nia's screaming at him down below, "Climb faster!" And then in Master of the Mountain, Nya is the only person in the room who doesn't gaslight him into believing that the gecko inside of his room was more than just a dream. And which is a really sincere parallel to whenever he did have that dream about everyone chiding him about the Traveler's Tea, but she was the only one that didn't. And there's a very cool moment of Cole and Nya double teaming a skeleton guard, where Nya knocks him out to the ground, and then Cole takes the ball and chain and says, "Hi there," and then drops the ball on the skeleton's head, which is awesome. And then whenever he comes back, she screams like, "I knew it!" Like, I knew he would come, while she's glomping all over Jay to get a closer look through the Vengestone bars. And in the island, Jay gets captured again, and by fake Wojira, foreshadowing everyone. And Nya and Cole are the ones who are comforting each other on the iceberg, while Jay is being torn away from them by fake Wojira, or as we know, Ronin. And Seabound and Crystallized, they have like really small things. I'm just going off the list here that I really like about them. He's the one that she contacts when she knows that Clutch Powers took the amulet, and it tells her not to worry and they'll handle it. They tried at least. And Nya tells Benthamar that there's a room for him in the monastery if he wants it. and that you won't even hear Cole snoring. And also we see in episode 2 of Seabound that Nya snores too. So it's a problem she's annoyed with by Cole, but I'm assuming people are annoyed with hers as well. And okay, so the other missed opportunity. So Cole is tasked with carrying the amulet, which is fake. But they don't know that yet. To Shintaro. Why? Well, tie up and close to impossible for Kalmar to reach, obviously. And Cole can convince Nya to guard Vanya to guard it so that it can be secure, and backing up her promise to him at the end of Master of the Mountain. But things about the trip to Shintaro. Zane says that the communications don't have the capacity to reach Shintaro from the monastery or even Ninjago City, which is closer. And it's established in Master of the Mountain that it's only invite only because of their dire bad. So, in conclusion, Cole, in order to protect Nya and all of Ninjago in a one-man vessel, went to Shintaro with no communication, facing dire bad to take the amulet there himself. And God, I want to be a fly on the wall for that conversation. And Vanya's like saying, "Please double the guard," and Cole's like, "Oh, this is something that she'll never see the light of day again. He's freaking Batman." And it's a good take. Rest in peace.
He would be Batman.
Heathen Conya stands sad fact. I learned this from an iceberg video. We all know what happens at the end of Seabound and what unfortunately happened with Kirby Morrow. And oh my gosh, as a person whose two favorite characters, Cole and Nya, basically watching a season in one makes a tragic sacrifice and loses a part of herself, and one of your favorite characters ends up losing a voice actor that they care about a lot, it really hurts. I don't like it. From the iceberg video, what makes it kind of tie into each other. I don't know if you know this, but when Kirby Morrow passed away, sadly, his last wish was to scatter his ashes into the ocean.
Aww.
And I know that's like a coincidence, and that's why it's like a Heathen Conya Stan sad fact. But oh man, it just has a lot for me.
Yeah.
I love this show. I love this characters. And the last thing that Kirby Morrow as Cole was doing was comforting Jay. Nya was gone. And oh god.
I'm not recovering from this.
No, I'm not either. I'm just my heart.
Yeah. Okay, the cookies crumbling parallel. Let's talk about it. Back in season 2, when Nya is separated from the rest of the team, and it's not anybody in the team's fault, Lloyd blames himself for losing her, and Cole's response to calm him down is, "That's just the way the cookie crumbled." And Nya is not herself and is possessed by something else entirely, against what she really wants, against her will. And I misspelled Maya. And then Seabound comes around, and Maya is worried that Nya will have to sacrifice a large part of herself and always wanting to defy expectations. And she says it's just the way the cookie crumbles. And she accepts this only when she has to sacrifice herself to save Ninjago and become more than just the water ninja, to become the Naiad. And Nya's gone, and time for the Overlord to come and time to take over Ninjago. It's a very interesting parallel that connects Cole and Nya in a way that's very specific and really entertaining. But even though it is technically a coincidence, it ties them more together as characters, and how they're always constantly sacrificing a part of themselves in order to be a good member of the team. And how they connect to Jay, and how they connect to each other and all their powers, and everything that they've went through the entire season, which is very disappointing and crystallized, but almost everything is disappointing and crystallized. But I wish there had been there's connection to not saving Jay in time, because he went to Shintaro and only arrived soon enough to save Jay from almost drowning, but he still has water in his lungs, giving room for Nya to save him. And I wish that Wu and Cole's roles were reversed, because Cole, like, taking responsibility and finding something to get somebody back is something that he does for Wu in season 8. And he could have done that with Jay, but no, that didn't happen. And we would also have that relationship they had in Master of the Mountain and SOG, where that flashback melds together, where it's like, this is hurting you, this is hurting everybody. We need to find out who's doing this Vengestone thing. There are more pressing matters to attend to, and then they go into the season and find Kai and Zane, and work team up, and I don't know. It's just something that I would have done if I had a pen. But what we actually got is just through his grief that he shows that's really internal in a lot of ways. And since this is the separation era, you can't really have Cole say anything other than, we all cared about her, Jay, as much as he would say about what Kai would say about Nya, and how they all cared about her. And he's also caught solemnly looking in one of the glasses that Jay puts up in the lighthouse. When Lloyd asks all who's in favor of breaking Sphera out of prison and breaking the law, Cole is the one who interrupts him. With the first hand that goes up is from him. And when the part of the mission with Jay doesn't work in the elevator at Borg Tower, he's really angry. He's throwing his hat everywhere. Oh my gosh. Also, okay, so whenever Nya does come back, and they have to go out into the desert and they break out of prison, Cole's like, Nya, what are you doing here? Who's like, go, go, go. And it's very much their relationship in the rest of the Wild Brain seasons. And there are lots of shots in which Jay and Cole are on Nia's shoulders when she's flying around on the Samurai X-Mech. And I think that's really sweet. And then that was the end. Or was it? And now we get to talk about Dragons Rising and beyond. So Dragons Rising is amazing. Can we all agree?
Yes.
I don't know if I would say amazing. I'd
It's
say
much
it's
better
really
than last
good.
season.
I'd say it's really good.
It's really, really good. I think so. I'm glued. I want to see.
I'll say some episodes were amazing.
Yeah. Land of Lost Things, Absolute Power.
I love Land of Lost Things. It's such like that episode. So good.
Oh my gosh. So these people know how to write these characters. Doc and Kevin are doing a bang up job with Cole and Nya. The fact that Nya is the one to reunite with Cole first and with Sora in tow specifically, is such a 4D level chess move, and allow me to break it down. So Sora has this great thing where she has connections to both Cole and Nya by two of the character arcs that she goes through in the season. Just like Nya, in thinking that she doesn't have the ability to become a good elemental master or have the motion to be one because she's already so good at technology. While she also has a very funny twist on Cole's storyline and being afraid of her parents accepting her or not because of what she wants to do to fight Beatrix and be a good hero to save Imperium from an evil empress. And also the fact that Sora's quirk, whenever she's working on technology and engineering, the same thing that Nya is interested in, she's singing, which is wild. Nya ends up mentoring Sora, and it leads to Geo learning his lesson to tell Cole about his power to realize something about himself. Always changing, never truly apart. Sora being a manifestation of the things Nya learned and what Cole will need to learn is brilliant. And it goes through those 2 episodes that they have together like butter. It's wonderful. Their arcs intersect again like they always have been since rebooted, and it's satisfying and it's beautiful. Land of the Lost Things MVP. Let's talk about their scene in Absolute Power. The goodbye scene is such a direct analog to Possession and what they did in Possession. And Kevin, whenever you guys did the episode ranking with Trist and Bendo,
Oh yeah.
they were absolutely right in how Cole and Nya's connection in Possession of we needed that in order for this scene to have as much weight because of how much this scene dictates what happens in Possession, also dictates what happens when they eventually have to say goodbye and fate separates them again. And Cole wants to follow what's going on because the earth is screaming, and Nya wants him to come with her, but he can't. And then we have the scene where they discuss the circumstances that are keeping them apart and bothering them are such an expression of what their relationship has started and evolved to become. They have Cole being a ghost is the same thing as wanting to follow Woo's ghost because it's something that he didn't want to do, but now he's comfortable enough in that destiny to move to do it, and he confides in Nya that he needs that hope and that comfort to do it. And they clearly don't want to leave each other, like I stated beforehand. And Nya doesn't want to become the water ninja, but she has to save it from Oro. And Nya has to go back to the team in Ninjago proper to face down Beatrix again. And Cole finding what his new powers means is also an analog to finding out what his destiny may be and finding Wu, and with the earth screaming and all of his problems that's upsetting him. And they discuss this in the context of their shared experience with Wu to give Cole comfort. Like Nya giving Cole comfort about going on what exploring what being a ghost means and following Wu's ghost by telling him that she's going through the same thing that they were going through whenever she was a water ninja and he was a ghost. And it ends with a hug, the same way that conversation ended, and it moves into their character arcs for the rest of the season. Just like Possession and Skybound and March of the Oni and Secrets of Forbidden Spinjitzu in the Ice chapter, because that is their relationship. And also the fact that he says, I was hoping you would say that, when the night previous he heard Wu calling him to go and wanting to go and was hoping for that comfort because he was protecting somebody else, some other family, and doing something else. And then the magic of hope, Jin magic, the magic of hope, led Nya to the Dragon Core closest to Cole. And my heart burst.
That's really freaking good. I'm sorry. Like, the more I think about it, I'm gonna save it till the end because I don't want to interrupt you.
Oh, that's fine. We'll keep going. So, final thoughts. Regardless about how people feel or not feel about this, since rebooted, Cole and Nya's relationship have been sweet, have been consistent, and have interesting angles to their relationship and connect to each other in ways that really none of the ninja outside of Kai and Nya, and maybe even Cole to Kai and Jen even have. And it's so in the background, but leads into so many arcs and so many things that they have specifically as characters, and how they've respected each other's abilities and what they can do since day one, episode one. And I understand that most people wouldn't be cool with the idea and wouldn't be attracted to a ship like this, and that relationships grow and change before they are together. And unfortunately, it's still one of the least popular ships in the entire fandom. And because of how subtle it is, and because of how it starts, and how diametrically opposed to the idea everyone had been since rebooted, that whenever you stand back and look at it as a whole unit, as a whole system, uh, it's still good. I like it a lot. It's one of my favorite dynamics. It's one of the most interesting and one of the most consistent, and also one of the sweetest. And it's much different than a lot of pairings that are more popular, like, I don't know, even non-canon ships like Loi Rumi, where their enemies to lovers dynamic completely blows up anything that happens, because really the only thing bad that Cole and Nya ever did to each other was Cole accidentally saying something that he didn't mean and Nya throwing a snowball at him. But if you see like any Ninjago poll or TikTok or post, anything like that, the ship always ends up getting like a 1 or a 0 out of 10. And it kind of makes me sad, because I see the potential in their relationship and what they have done in the narrative for each other and the rest of Ninjago, and all the missed opportunities that arises from them that could be really charming and sweet. I have grown attached, and if anyone really wants to have me on their side and be the Conya fandom's mom, like I've always wanted to become, and and they were like, I like this relationship too, and they're being bullied about it, I will be with them in the trenches. And most of the things that I gave you in this presentation are the reasons why. And the fan reaction, because of Dragons Rising and after Ninjago proper is really done and stuff, Cole and Nya's relationship has garnered a lot of admiration and a lot of things. People are amazed about their casual intimacy, which is what we were talking about just the other day, Kevin. They were holding hands, hugging, hand nuzzles, attack hugs, like everything literally under the sun.
Touching their faces.
It was like, but like leaning into her touch in a way that we haven't seen other characters really do is baffling and insane to me. I can't
Just
believe that.
put like that picture. Just put
Yeah,
that picture up there and just have like a just go crazy with the effects there.
yeah. I think it was. I don't know if it was Dodo or somebody else who posted a photo of that on underneath spoilers, and they said, "Ooh, this shot is really dangerous out of context."
Oh boy.
I was laughing so hard. And the fan reaction between their scenes are becoming more positive, and people are advocating that they should have more scenes like this in the future. But the funny thing about it is that they've always had these scenes for about 10 seasons now. 10 or 11 or 12 seasons now. And more people are coming, and more people are sending me fan art, and I love them. Angela and Drew and Leo are all sending me beautiful fan art. The fan art on slide 82 is from Leo. They specifically said, "Here, have my fan art in your Conya stand presentation." And as more people come out and say how great of a relationship is, like a younger part of myself feels kind of relieved because now I can talk about it and it not be an issue, or saying that, I'm not a pro shipper, but I am a stan. I love their relationship and what it's become and what it could have been. And with or without romantic context, they've always had this relationship. Even whenever Nya was comforting Cole about his insecurities about, being the worst and being lame and being an awful person. They've always had that relationship. And the post season 6 Twitter discussions arising from this issue, uh, that we've discussed thoroughly and like tooth and nail, is that there's a lot of Jay hate recently on Twitter, and it kind of makes me a little bit sad and nervous about what I think is going to happen to Jay specifically moving forward into beyond Dragons Rising. And uh and I don't understand the Jay hate, but I understand why people are frustrated by how he doesn't get a lot of development that doesn't have to do with his romantic relationship. And Jay has suffered because of that, because in my opinion, Jay may have suffered and become the character that people were scared of Cole becoming and rebooted if he ever had a love interest, and that it wouldn't let him go through any kind of character development outside of just being in that relationship. And it's regardless of species, and it's regardless of gender. And Jay may also have become the character that Nia would be terrified in becoming, and that the last few seasons, and now as we're sitting here recording before Dragons Rising season 2 even airs, is that Jay for the past few seasons has been constantly being the one to be saved, whether it be saving him from a video game cabinet that he just walks through, or being the rope that Mertessa and Nia play tug of war over, or being captured by fake Wojira, and the most devastating of all, and no matter how tragic and how sad I am about Seabound's ending and how good it is, the fact that the reason that Jay is even in dire straits in the first place is because he just threw himself and his car in Wojira's face. And then almost drowned. And and he's constantly having to be saved. He's discerned in the narrative by everyone as being really cute and funny, and people who are starting to like him, like Fugidove, ends up becoming the plot point in which it gives them the chance to escape. And being the supportive love interest of another character while that other character is going through their arc completely separate of them. And now, as we are recording, we don't know what Jay's storyline is, but he is currently sitting in a room playing video games, and we have to save him from either being brainwashed or amnesia because of the merge or whatever that is. And Cole and Nya already have separate arcs that have already met towards each other, and the only person in 20 episodes in 22 minutes each, and the only character that even mentions Jay by name is Nya. Kind of makes me a little nervous because of this. I'm really excited but also really scared about what Jay could become, because essentially what it boils down to, and another reason why I kind of like them so much, and if we can go to slide 84, Cole would say, "No, Nya, Jay isn't here. Our princess is in another castle." And that is why I am Ninjago's Heathen Conya stan. Any questions?
I was trying to find the soundboard.
Well, what sound are you going to use?
I was trying to use clapping.
Oh, clapping. Okay. Thank you so much. Oh, that was a month and a half thinking about it. It's done. Phew. How was it, Kevin?
You want my honest?
Easy.
Do you want my honest thoughts here?
Oh, you can go ahead.
Okay. I have to be honest here.
Mm-hmm.
As painful as it is for me to say,
okay,
if I can be 100% real with you,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have one big issue with this presentation.
Ooh.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Now come closer, everybody. Come closer, children. All right. So
Okay.
my biggest issue is it's way too good.
No, it's true
It's
though.
Oh, thank you. Oh my god. Phew,
Now I can't make a presentation.
Honestly,
oh no. We can
Cheesy,
collab
you're not
on
allowed to make a presentation too,
this
unless
is
it's
the
like 100
presentation
slides.
to end all presentations, to be honest. Like
Oh gosh.
if there was a ranking of like cartoon or like show related presentations, this one would be at the top 10, I feel like.
Oh
Honestly,
god.
just convert this to a video essay, like a 3
Yes,
hour video essay.
honestly though.
What I'm going to do is I've recorded this. I'm going to post this around Christmas. It will happen.
Hell yeah. Like,
how long is it gonna be? Is it gonna be like an
I
hour?
think it's gonna be 3 hours.
Actually, we only talked about it for technically 2 hours.
Oh dang, not bad.
So it's gonna be 2 hours.
Yeah.
I
And
Oh boy.
yeah, because technically 3 hours. It's almost 3 hours long.
It was a worthy 3 hours.
Yeah, so there's my presentation. That's everything I think I've wanted to say for the past 8 years, all in a 3-hour contingency.
That presentation was beautiful.
Thank you.
Also, so throughout the whole presentation, I've been thinking to myself, because I went into this being like, I want to be convinced, I want to believe, I want to understand.
Sure.
I very much now understand.
Yes.
You're a believer now.
Thank you. You shall be unhinged Conya stands with me.
I
shall suffer in the dark.
I will be 100% honest. I am definitely like you, a multi-shipper, so I'm like, I'll have both. Why not both? Both are nice.
All of the above.
Yeah,
Thank
all of
you.
above.
Mud shock.
But when it comes to Conya, by all technicality, from like its baseline or its like conception, or Cole and Nya, I think are the more stable relationship, and to an extent, especially from the start, the more healthy relationship. Like they're just there comforting each other and being like, yeah, we're going through shit, but we're
And
here for each other.
much deeper of a connection of a relationship that says you can do versus this is what I maybe you can use that and it works.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that they share that just other people in the series just don't.
I think the way you frame the idea that they're like main arcs of the show, like oppose each other, like they're both like they juxtapose each other so well. I love that, and I never noticed it until you pointed it out like that.
No one ever notices outside of just what chemistry do they have, or if they look pretty together, or just like the cosmetic things of what a shipping war would do.
Usually for me, oh sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and really, like as an ace woman, it kind of fuels a lot about how I feel about relationships in media.
Valid.
Because most of the time there'll be just like attraction, and then they find out that they're so different that it kind of doesn't mesh that well, or certain things have to happen in order for that to happen rather than it just have organically based on their character arcs and how they juxtapose and connect them and also turn against them.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Honestly, that's the way that even just myself view relationships. I care much more about who the person is and how we mesh together as just people than anything else. But when it comes to that, because like for me, when it comes to shipping, I'm less about, oh, they look pretty together, and more about, are they good? Do they lift each other up by the whatever the end game is, and also do they contrast each other enough to where it's not like two of the same character together? And I think I really needed it to be explained the way you did to really see that contrast, because I didn't see it before. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I saw that the other day. I think Quinn said I don't have anything wrong with Conya. It's just that they are too much the same for me to get attached to them in a relationship. But me, I don't see it that way. I think they have the same route where they have expectations that they want to live up to and defy. Whenever they see that in each other, they either pick each other up or they'll be moments like in the ice chapter where it's just the something that ends up keeping them apart.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that about their relationship.
I think it's very sweet too. It's adorable.
Yeah, her two little nuggets, and I love them. I love them.
So, Kev, how did you feel about the presentation? Were you changed into a believer?
No, bad. 0 out of 10.
Gasp.
It was like, oh, we have to. It was him. He said, we need to do a spaces like this sometime, and I was like, okay, I got you, fam.
Worst
Here's
mistake of my life.
51 pages of good notes. Try. Oh my,
51.
51 college ruled line notes on my iPad. Do you want to hear my predictions of what is going to happen in Dragons Rising? Because I'm really excited
Yeah,
to talk about it.
I am very
Because I've
curious.
talked about it to like no other person ever. So I want to talk about Jay because I'm really excited about Jay's storyline in particular. Not only Cole's, because we're gonna go see Geo again, and I'm
I
excited.
hope so.
I if I would consider myself a pro shipper, then Geode would be my pro ship for Dragons Rising. I love them. And they're already, and they fix a lot of problems that I have with Ninjago couples anyway, where they have already an established connection, and it's all in subtext, but they can be a couple later, and they're learning things about each other. Cole's and Gio's name literally means earth, and they're both artists, and they both have a familial tie to Shintar. I could go all night. But oh my god, I love the Gio fan art. Gimme. They even hired in that episode a gay freelance writer to
Wait,
write the episode.
legit?
Yeah, to write the episode, and it never wrote an episode of television before.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that.
And I'm so excited. I want more of their relationship. Please make Geo the thing in 2024. And
Yes, please.
hashtag in Doc we trust. if I
It's Doc and Kevin actually.
Doc and Kevin, Doc and Kevin have yes.
They
please.
come as a set, okay?
Yeah, Doc and Kevin, yes, and Rich Johnson, he's the series director. Okay. Let's. Oh, and Hannah Lee Cooked. That's the name.
That's why we got Jiro.
Yes.
Because of a cat.
Oh, yes.
Don't forget the Frohickey joke.
Yeah. I feel so sorry for Jaya shippers though, because Skybound always ends up getting gypped. Anyway, because they don't even talk about Skybound hardly at all, and we saw a Jin. I feel really, really sorry for them.
Yeah. I
Got
feel
the
like if they
music,
were to
though.
bring it up, they'd have to explain stuff, though, to the people
Yeah,
on the
that's
deck
true.
who didn't
Sure.
watch season 6.
And that's like their problem with not making Echo Zane Mr. E, but that's a whole other
Because
thing.
you have to explain so much about it.
Right?
It's like, here's all the things
And
that happened.
I'm surprised they even got season 6 related stuff in Dragon's Rising. Surprisingly, they were able to bring that in and make it work.
And not make it
Yes.
long or like
Exactly.
have X-Spies. X-Spies? I don't think that's a word. Oh well.
Oh Lord. And okay, so here's my thing about Jay and Dragon's Rising. Okay, so as we all know, the realm of madness, there is a tall office building, or just an office building inside the realm of madness, called the administration, in which Jay is either brainwashed or manipulated or has amnesia. And I don't think he has amnesia because they call him Agent Walker. So he definitely, because he definitely knows what his name is. So the administrator could be telling him what his name is, or it's way more interesting for me that he knows who he is and he's in the administration. And I think that he's in the administration because he has been manipulated to believing that the administration is the way to protect all 16 realms. And what's really fun about the department reassignment is that the people that they send into those realms are in a catatonic state. They're not speaking, they're not moving, they're not doing anything. They're just being sent to different realms. So I think the people in the administration are just people, agents in the administration are just people that showed up in the pockets of the nothing space or whatever, and they put them into that catatonic state and made them believe that the administration was the way to take hold of all the bureaucracy and everything in the world. And from what Zane says about all the agents is that they are incredibly incompetent, but they are deadly serious in what they are doing. And that is also true because they haven't had their pencils sharpened and they haven't had their papers filed the right way, and there's long lines that last 3 generations, and and Jay is currently sitting in a room playing video games, slacking off, and And he knows what his name is and what he should be, but he's sitting in an office thinking that and his deadly mind state about keeping everything in order inside the administration also applies to him, which means that once they eventually find Jay, and I hope that it's Nya and Cole, I pray, with maybe like Aaron in tow, because he was a part of the whole administration thing and about his parents. I want Nya to be the one to find Jay and find out that Jay is being manipulated and she wants him to come to her, and Jay is crazy and thinks the administration is the way to go, and he doesn't want to go back because he's a manager and he's got his own lackeys, and it's a complete amalgamation of the two things that I said in my presentation, where Jay is slowly but surely becoming his own worst enemy the more that he does to get what he wants for himself, for his own future, and Crime Empire, in which he's playing the video games and being incompetent at the video games with all of his lackeys looking up to him, and he likes it and he wants to stay there, and he's going to be a tragic villain evil ball, and it'll be the first time in Ninjago history where Nya and Jay want a future together, but the thoughts of what their future entails are diametrically opposed to one another. In other words, Jay wants her to come with him, and Nya wants him to come with her. Cue angst.
I want to see that.
And bonus points if the administrator is someone with a very close personal and emotional tie to Jay. And that's another reason why he wants to stay so bad. Like a Palpatine figure. In other words, they're about to make Jay and Nya Anakin and Padme, and I am here for it.
Oof.
Gimme.
Okay, so we're going to have Cole and Jay fight over a lava area.
Yes.
And
So
we're going to
one
have
of them
Jay
will have the high
have
ground.
his leg cut off, and we're going to cut his hand off, and we're going to burn his ass alive.
Close enough. Bonus points if he loses an eye and he finally gets that eye patch everyone wants him to have or something.
Yes.
But I'm glad that I watched episode 3. Oh yeah, episode 3 with you, Kev, before this, because now I know the reference.
Yes.
We're gonna have Battle of the Heroes blasting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I want to happen, and what I think will happen. And if I'm wrong, that's okay. But how much Doc and Kevin have been doing with their character arcs, and how much they connect back to what they were in Ninjago, and they're probably doing the same thing to Jay. Maybe in the way I said, probably in the way I not said. I don't know. But that's what I want to happen.
I think that'd be super interesting because, like, especially like the last few seasons, Jay and Nia's relationship has been just like, minus the Nia turning into the ocean thing, and like that's honestly basically the only conflict has been just they're fine, and I guess the Murtessa thing, but like that's its own that's its own thing. But everything's been very like, oh, they're happy together, they're doing good. So to have that contrast, to have that like you said, diametrically opposed, would be very interesting and be a good shakeup.
Imagine if Jay dropped the line, "You're turning her against me."
Oh.
You have done that yourself.
I have the high ground. Get it, ground?
If you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
And we all know how much Ninjago writers love Star Wars.
And they still do.
And they still do.
Can't forget when Sora literally had the Empire Strikes Back moment.
Yeah.
True.
Pass me the thing. Ow.